Okay, today we're going to take a look at how to enter equations into the TI-84 graphing calculator and then look at the graph and see what they look like. I've got three that I am going to demonstrate in this video, one dealing with a fraction, one with an x squared, and then one with a set of absolute value bars. We're going to start with this equation up here in the top left-hand corner, y equals 1/2 x minus 7. To start with, I'm going to need to come over here and hit the y equals button so that I can enter my equation. Alright, now for putting that fraction in, you could go ahead and do 0.5 since that's a fraction that we know. However, if you ended up with some other fraction that maybe you did not know the decimal for, it's good to go ahead and be able to put the fraction in. Alright, if I do alpha F1, then that gives me the shortcut menu of where all of my fraction buttons are. This is just an ordinary fraction, so I'm going to want to hit 1. And then when I do that, then it gives me a template for my fraction. I can put the 1 in the top, I can arrow down, and then put the 2 in. Alright, now you do want to make sure and pay attention to where that blinking cursor is. It's still in the denominator of that fraction. You're going to need to arrow to the right before you attempt to put your variable in. So now I can put x and then minus 7. Alright, now this should be a straight line, pretty straightforward graph. Alright, you can just hit the graph button, alright, and then most of the time that works. However, if it doesn't, to maybe save a step, if you hit zoom, then you have a menu here, and if you do zoom 6 or zoom standard, then that's going to hopefully center everything up and put it so that you can see it real nice. Alright, and in this case that worked really well. Alright, it is a straight line with a slope of 1/2 and a y-intercept of -7 there, so we can clearly see that. So for the most part, straight lines are pretty simple to enter in. Alright, let's now go back and enter the parabola in. So I'm going to go back and hit y equals. Alright, I need to clear that equation out. So I'm going to hit clear, and then I'm going to start putting in -3x squared plus 4. Now you do want to make sure that you hit the negative button and not the minus button. Alright, you try using the minus button for a negative button and it will give you an error. So I'm going to hit -3x. Now I could do the caret key and then 2 raised to the second power, or I can come over here to the left hand side. There is an x squared button in there that's just going to automatically put it as x squared. And if you do use the x squared button, then you can see that the calculator automatically put it back down, the cursor back down on the line where you need it to be to enter the rest of the equation. Alright, now I can go ahead and do plus 4, and again I could just hit graph if I want to go look at the graph, but if I want to maybe save a step and assure that my picture is going to look pretty good, I'm going to do zoom and then 6 for zoom standard. Alright, when the little thing up here is moving, then that kind of tells you the calculator is thinking. When those lines stop moving up there, as they have done now, then the graph is done. And as we can see, this is an upside down parabola, as we suspected, because of the leading coefficient is negative, has a y-intercept of 4, it's been shifted up 4. Okay, so there is putting a parabola in. Alright, now for the absolute value equation. Alright, there's going to be several functions like absolute value or cube root. You're going to have to know where to get those things at. So let's go back into the y equals. And technically I wouldn't have to clear that out and put a new one in. If I wanted to leave that graph on, I could, and then I could just arrow down and put a second graph underneath there. Alright, but most of the time we want to look at graphs individually, and so we usually do go ahead and clear them out and only put one in at a time. Alright, now this one has absolute value of 2x and then minus 5. Alright, there's a couple different ways to get to the absolute value. One way is hitting the math button. Alright, when you hit the math button, then you see a menu here. Alright, and then this right here is the cube root. So if I had the cube root of x, then that's where I would go to get the cube root. Alright, but I want absolute value. So I'm going to need to arrow to the right. If I arrow to the right, it switches over to a new set of menus here. Alright, this first one, ABS with a little parentheses there, stands for absolute value. So I could hit 1, and then that's going to put the absolute value bars there, and I could then start to type my 2x in there. Alright, let's go ahead and clear that though and show you the other way to get to it. Alright, if you don't want to hit the math button, then you can do the alpha key, which is right here, and then F2, the table set, the window one, because you hit alpha, so then F2, that gives you a shortcut menu and a shortcut way to get to that same menu we just saw. So from there I would hit 1, and again I have my absolute value bars. Alright, inside there, then 2, and then X. Now, the -5 is on the outside of the bars, and my cursor is still on the inside of the bars, so I'm going to need to arrow outside of them and then put the -5 in there. Alright, and here again, if you want to go straight to the graph and just see what the calculator does with it, I could hit graph. Alright, I usually prefer to do zoom standard, because then that kind of hopefully guarantees me that everything's going to be in the center. Alright, again, as we suspected, absolute value graphs are V-shaped. Alright, this is an upright V that has been shifted down 5, so we can clearly see that. Alright, so just 3 simple little equations on how you go about entering those into the TI-84 calculator. If you're liking the videos, please subscribe to my channel. I'd be grateful. Thanks.